Enough of this. What? You don't have the right to say that to me. My husband barged into my home office, wrecking the place regardless of whether I was working or not. Why does it come to this? Are you serious? His face was earnest. He criticized me for just playing around, even when I was working from home. And it wasn't just him. Talking to her is a waste of time. Yeah, you're right. I didn't know she was this useless. A bug would be more helpful, wouldn't it? Mom, that's insulting to the bug too. Sorry, I just couldn't hold back. Every day was a struggle to endure such treatment. My opinions were ignored, and they freely vented their frustrations on me. Then, one day, while I was in an important meeting at home, my husband unexpectedly entered the room. However, I didn't notice because I was wearing headphones. Get ready. You're unnecessary in this house. Just a parasite. I'm in a meeting right now. My mother-in-law, who came in later, started scolding me too. It was when I turned back to the computer to turn off the camera. The colleagues in the meeting screamed, "Run!" I turned around in shock. My husband was holding a bucket over his head and threw its contents at me. At that moment, I felt like everything was in slow motion for the first time in my life. Then I felt a burning heat all over my body. Stop! The bucket was filled with boiling water. Need to disinfect you more. It's still not enough. I thought I needed to get to the shower room to cool down. But I couldn't escape because my husband grabbed my arm. Where are you going? He pulled my arm and dragged me out of the room as if pulling me along. I was taken to the living room, where my mother-in-law continued to pour boiling water on me. How about that? Did we manage to disinfect her a bit? I wonder. It's a pretty big bug, after all. You, a freeloader, should get out of this house. I clenched my fists and stood up. I filled with anger to the point that I couldn't feel the heat from the boiling water. Of course, that's my plan. I retorted. You cannot survive out there. That's when I smirked. What are you laughing at? She must have lost her mind by now. I revealed my true self to them. You're saying you're the CEO of a company with an annual turnover of $400 million? Stop joking around. You must have really lost it. It's okay if you don't believe me. But you'll be the ones regretting it. I had been preparing for this day for a long time. I went back to my office room, got the divorce papers, and returned. Here, the divorce papers. This should do it, right? Are you serious? You were the ones who said it first. Ignoring their wailing, I left the house. A month later, my husband and his mother visited me. This was also part of my plan. I am Patricia Brown, and I've been working at the company I started with my friends during college. We were studying economics, but decided to do something fun and launched an e-commerce website. Handling various items, we were almost the same as some major companies. To avoid getting lost in the shuffle, we pushed a certain concept to the forefront. What's up, Linda? Linda was one of the original members. I had a great idea. What if we mainly handle products that seem like they wouldn't sell? What? I want to do something amazing. I've already got permission from the other members. Looking at the products Linda suggested, they indeed seemed like they wouldn't sell. But they were interesting due to good design or low price, and it felt like it might work. That could be interesting. Right? Want to give it a try? We'll give it a shot. At that time, we were doing it as a game until we graduated. So, some of the members already had jobs. However, our e-commerce website started to get a little attention online, and we were making a pretty decent profit. Especially since I didn't have a job, I decided to continue running it. Speaking of which, what's Linda gonna do? I'm gonna help you. I don't have anything else I want to do anyway. Then let's give it our all together. I have a favor to ask. I was surprised by the request. No way, I can't do that. Wouldn't you be better for that? Everyone else thinks so too. Behind my back again. Sorry. So, what do you think? I was hesitant, but it felt good to be relied on by everyone. All right. But in return, I'm gonna need you to work harder than ever as my right-hand woman. When I told my parents that I wasn't going to get a regular job and instead continue as a CEO, they didn't object and gave me their blessing. After that, our profits continued to rise steadily, and by the time I was 27, we went public. That's when I met Joshua. It happened at a store I often visited. Joshua was the owner, the business handed down through generations. It is so cute. Thank you for always coming. Please take your time looking around. Will do. I highly rated the cozy atmosphere of the store and the fact that it stocked not only American but also foreign products. I kept going there regularly. As I visited multiple times, we started to have various conversations. Originally, Joshua was an employee. But the store was at risk of closing down after his father passed away. Weren't you scared? Of course, I was scared. But I grew up here. Also, my mom has a bad back, and I was the only one left. I see. Though, to be honest, the sales have been tough. Then Joshua shared something that startled me. Also, it might bore you, but when I took over the store, I was almost tricked by someone I thought was a friend. Really? Yeah. He was the owner of a real estate company. If I had gone along with his plan, he would have taken the store from me. He laughed it off, but I could tell he had been through a lot. That's why I kinda feel a bit of disgust when I hear the title of CEO. I'm a CEO too, but maybe I shouldn't say that. By the way, what do you do, Patricia? I could say I'm an engineer? Wow, that's impressive. It wasn't a complete lie. When we were launching the site, I helped my friends so I had some knowledge too. There was no turning back. I continued to visit the store, hoping to contribute in any way by purchasing various products. It was about half a year after I started visiting the store regularly. One day, as usual, I went to the store, and Joshua invited me out. We had talked a lot before, so we had a good relationship. I couldn't say yes right away. It wasn't that I didn't want to. I knew Joshua was serious and cared a lot about his family. Is it a no? Seeing his slightly sad face, I said I would go. I didn't fully understand why I made that decision at the time. After several dates, Joshua confessed to me. That was when I truly realized I liked Joshua. 6 months later, he proposed, and we went to meet his family for a marriage introduction. I'm still nervous. Don't worry. My mom is really kind. I just hope they'll accept me. While we were talking about this, we arrived at his parents' house. Welcome. You must be Patricia, whom Joshua has been talking about. Yes. The conversation went smoothly from there. So, Patricia, what do you think about living together with me? Living together? I don't particularly mind. I guess that might happen eventually. That's good to hear. The smile on my mother-in-law's face during this time stayed in my mind for a while. I had no idea about the devilish aspect hidden behind her smile. It was just 1 week after we registered our marriage. By the way, what are we going to do about our house? That's already been decided. What? I hadn't heard anything about it. I don't remember to discuss this before. Let's go for now. Wait a minute. Joshua took me to his parents' house, where we had just visited. Is this where we're going to live? From today, you'll be living here. Remember what Mom said the other day? Oh. I thought to myself, how could I be so foolish? The question my mother-in-law asked wasn't about eventually, it was about now. I couldn't exactly say no. I endure the desire to enjoy a newlywed life, just the two of us. Having spoken to her only once, I optimistically thought it would be okay since my mother-in-law seemed kind. Looking forward to living with you. I look forward to it too. There's one thing I want you to remember. Don't forget that you've become a wife in this house. Yes, I remember. The next day, my moving boxes arrived, and I was allowed to use an empty room as my office. The change started to appear a week later. Patricia, do you remember what I told you? That you've become a wife in this house. I remember that, but... Good, because you're going to start working from today. Then, my mother-in-law handed me a broom and a trash box. I'm sorry, but I have work. What? This is more important than that. Suddenly, I was scolded. And she watched me the entire time I started cleaning. Joshua was at the store and not at home. I had no choice but to follow my mother-in-law's orders. Have you never cleaned before, Patricia? I have. Then move more quickly. It was as if she had become a different person, giving orders. And it was just the beginning, she even started taking my money. My mother-in-law had been a housewife and wasn't working now. Remember, this is also part of a wife's duties. That can't be right. But I couldn't say that to her. I can understand about that. From then on, she did whatever she wanted. While I was out, she would eat the food from the fridge or order expensive steak and make me pay for it. Of course, I didn't get to eat any. I need to talk to you about something. Yeah, tell me anything. It's about your mom. In an instant, I could see Joshua's face cloud over. Did something happen with my mom? How should I put this? She's been really tough on me. I tried to put it mildly. I see. Can you tell me specifically what she's done? I explained everything that had happened so far. As I talked, he nodded along, so I hoped he would speak up on my behalf. But that night, during dinner with the three of us, Patricia, you tattled to Joshua, didn't you? I looked at Joshua. He continued eating, seemingly unfazed by me. You're causing unnecessary trouble. That's because... I silently begged Joshua to say something. Joshua put down his chopsticks and sighed softly. Just to clear things up, dealing with parents is also part of a wife's duties. He said, the complete opposite of what I expected. Joshua is right. You just need to do things for us. Your opinion isn't needed. That's too much. Respecting your parents is just basic decency. If you can't do that, what can you do? We were completely at an impasse. This wasn't the person I thought I married. After dinner, Joshua went back to his room. Left alone with my mother-in-law, I felt utterly powerless to resist. If this happens again, you'll be skipping meals. I chose not to answer. But that only seemed to make trouble bigger. Do you listen to me? While I was looking down, she splashed water on me. When I looked up, my mother-in-law was just smirking. As I stood up and tried to go back to my office, she stopped me. You still have cleanup to do. That's your job, isn't it? I bit my lip and went back to do the dishes. We're not monsters, you know. As long as you do what you're supposed to, that's all that matters. What are you saying? You're already acting like a monster. Do you have something you want to say? No, nothing. After finishing the chores, I headed to my office. It was the one place in the house where I could be alone without anyone bothering me. I started to think about the future. I didn't want to continue being used in this house. I thought about consulting my parents, but the memory of their smiles when I announced my marriage came back to me. I can't disappoint them. Especially since it hasn't even been half a year since I got married. Besides, if I do everything she asks me to do, there shouldn't be any complaints. I psyched myself up again. I could bring up divorce when the time was right. That was what I thought. That's the spirit I see in you today. I guess I had the wrong idea before. From now on, I'll work hard for this family. That's the right attitude. Once I started managing the household chores nearly perfectly, my mother-in-law, who had always been so critical, suddenly started treating me kindly, which made me unexpectedly happy. Eventually, we even started going out together. I should have been doing this from the start. After that, I was able to live peacefully, except for Joshua. It seemed Joshua didn't like that I was getting along well with his mother. I hadn't noticed before, but Joshua really loves his mother. Joshua started plotting to drive a wedge between me and his mother. Sorry, but I need you to help out at the store from tomorrow. Help out at the store? But I have my work at home too. It's not like it's anything significant. You can bring your laptop along, can't you? What will you be doing during that time? What? You know I'll be taking a day off. I couldn't help but sigh. You'll do it, right? To be honest, I liked the store. Thinking positively, if I could work in that atmosphere, it might not be so bad. Okay, but not every day. All right. We're closed on Thursdays, so I'm counting on you from Monday to Wednesday. I agreed and started working at the store. But customers were scarce. There were days when not a single person came in from morning to evening. That's when I decided to try selling online through a web shop. I also used social media. Gradually, sales began to increase. It seems like sales have been going up lately. Yes, they have. So, my sense of style must be good. Maybe so. Most of the items in the store were sourced by Joshua. I admit that his taste in sourcing the products was a factor. However, that alone doesn't make products sell. In fact, it wouldn't be wrong to say it sold well because of the adjustments I made. I deliberately kept that fact hidden. Because I thought he wouldn't admit it anyway. Then, Joshua, misunderstanding the situation, started to get carried away. What's this about? Oh, this? I always wanted it, so I bought it. Cool, right? Joshua had bought a luxury car without discussing it with me, using most of our earnings. Without discussing it first? While we were arguing, my mother-in-law, who had just returned from shopping, caught us. What are you two doing here? Joshua bought a car on his own, using almost all of our earnings. Since my relationship with my mother-in-law was good at the time, she took my side without hesitation. What are you thinking? We don't need something like this. Joshua ended up getting scolded by his mother. Apparently, he couldn't stand up to her and just made excuses. Don't say unnecessary things. Hiding it won't change anything. It's just a matter of sooner or later. Damn it. Honestly, with my income included, money wasn't a worry, but continuing like this would definitely lead to ruin. It was one thing for Joshua, but I wanted to avoid affecting my mother-in-law. So, I figured if there was no money to be used, it would solve the problem, and I began reducing the inventory of our online shop. The strategy worked. Since I had been managing the sales and inventory since being asked to help at the store, Joshua could only know the financial situation through the sales reports I provided. So, how are sales this month? It seemed Joshua hadn't learned his lesson. This much for this month. That's it? Isn't that a bit low? That's the tough part of doing business, isn't it? Well, I guess so. After adjusting the sales for a few months, Joshua came up with an outrageous accusation. It happened one night. You're skimming the store's earnings, aren't you? What? I'm not doing anything like that. It's strange that the monthly earnings suddenly dropped. You must be embezzling. Do you have any proof? It started when you were managing the store. That's when the sales began to drop. Just because the sales drop doesn't mean I'm skimming money, right? Are you fighting again? This one has been skimming sales and keeping the money for herself. Patricia has. I haven't done anything like that. Neither of us backed down, and the argument continued for a while. The day ended with my mother-in-law's mediation, but 2 days later, things took an unexpected turn. So, it was you taking the store's money after all. This again? I told you, I didn't do it. Then what's this? Joshua was holding an envelope. Inside it seemed to be a large sum of money, easily a few $1,000s. This was found in your office. You were hiding it, but unfortunately for you, now everyone can see. See, Mom? With this much evidence, I have no choice but to believe it. Wait, please. I didn't do anything like that. Believe me. Stop embarrassing yourself. Just admit your wrongdoing. I've been framed. I couldn't believe he would go to such lengths. Looking at my mother-in-law, she seemed to fully believe Joshua. It's a shame. I thought we were finally getting along. I really didn't. That's enough. I felt everything we had built crumbling down at that moment. The hellish times were returning. Forbidden from going to the store, I was confined to the house, forced to do chores as if I were imprisoned. On top of the usual housework, I was also sent out to the convenience store in the middle of the night. Hey! What's with this awful meal? Are you messing with me? Even in situations where my mother-in-law would have intervened before, she now ignored everything. It's cruel to bully her like this. But she needs to understand her place, right? Patricia. Yes. Then my mother-in-law threw the food into the nearby trash can. What are you doing? I thought it tasted bad. So, make it again. Now? Of course. You committed theft. This isn't even punishment. Even if she makes it again, it might still taste bad. Why don't we go out to eat? That sounds good. So you take care of the rest. The two of them left to eat out. Left alone in the house, I realized living with these people was impossible. I quickly finished cleaning up and secluded myself in my room. I shut down the online shop that I had contributed to for sales. This would surely impact them later. After all, there were barely any sales even before I started managing the store. By the time they realized, I wouldn't be in this house anymore. I also cleverly used shopping time to acquire a divorce form. I planned to confront them at the perfect moment. It happened while I was working as usual. Joshua entered the room, searching for hidden money in shelves and drawers. Stop it already! What? You don't have the right to say that to me. Why does it have to be like this? Are you serious? Joshua was earnest. Since it was his own lie, he couldn't back down now. Even when I was working from home, he accused me of just playing around. And it wasn't just Joshua. Talking to her is a waste of time. Yeah, you're right. I didn't know she was this useless. A bug would be more useful, wouldn't it? Mom, that's insulting to the bug too. Sorry, I just couldn't hold back. Every day was a struggle to endure. My opinions were ignored, and they freely vented their frustrations on me. Then, one day, while I was in an important meeting at home, Joshua unexpectedly entered the room. However, I didn't notice because I was wearing headphones. Get ready. You're unnecessary in this house. Just a parasite. I'm in a meeting right now. My mother-in-law, who came in later, started scolding me too. It was when I turned back to the computer to turn off the camera. The colleagues in the meeting screamed, "Run!" I turned around in shock. Joshua was holding a bucket over his head and threw its contents at me. At that moment, I felt like everything was in slow motion for the first time in my life. Then I felt a burning heat all over my body. Stop! The bucket was filled with boiling water. We need to disinfect you more. It's still not enough. I thought it was bad. I tried to head to the shower room. However, Joshua grabbed my arm, making it impossible for me to escape. Where are you going? He pulled my arm, dragging me out of the room like he was pulling me along. I was taken to the living room, where my mother-in-law continued to pour boiling water on me. How about that? Did we manage to disinfect you a bit? It's a pretty big bug, after all. You, a freeloader, should get out of this house. I clenched my fists and stood up. I filled with anger to the point that I couldn't feel the heat from the boiling water. Of course, that's my plan. I retorted. You cannot survive without us. That's when I smirked. What are you laughing at? She must have lost her mind by now. I revealed my true self to them. You're saying you're the CEO of a company with an annual turnover of $400 million? Stop joking around. They must have really lost it. It's okay if you don't believe me. But you'll be the ones regretting it. I had been preparing for this day for a long time. I went back to my office room, got the divorce papers, and returned. Here, the divorce papers. This should do it, right? Are you serious? You were the ones who said it first. Ignoring their wailing, I left the house. My destination was my parents' home. Standing at the front door, I hesitated to open it. I didn't want to come back here like this. Then I heard a voice from behind. Turning around, there stood my mother. Patricia? What's wrong? Mom. Sensing something was off, my mother gently led me inside. How is it? Tasty, right? Yeah. Your coffee is always the best, Mom. So, what brings you here at this time? Well, you see. I explained everything to my mother. Even my usually calm mother was furious this time. What? That's unbelievable. But I've been preparing for this. Really? Yes. We waited for my father to come home and told him everything that had happened. My father was ready to confront them immediately, but I stopped him. Why stop me? My daughter has been mistreated. Please calm down. They will come to us eventually. What do you mean? Just wait and see. That night, I received a call from Linda. Are you okay? It was chaos after you left. Sorry, a lot happened after that too. Are you all right now? For now, yes. I'm back at my parents' house. About today. Sorry for interrupting the important meeting. Then I remembered something crucial. Linda. We always record the meetings for documentation, right? Yes, we recorded today's meeting as usual. Oh, are you thinking what I think you are? Did you realize too? Yes. Can you send that to me later? Okay. Unexpectedly, I obtained the strongest evidence. That night, I slept soundly for the first time in a while. A month later, Joshua and his mother came to see me. Please, help us. I was waiting for you. What? You're out of money and in trouble, right? You're a CEO, right? We're still married. If this continues, we'll have to give up the store. That has nothing to do with me. About the divorce papers you gave me. Did you bring them filled out? Joshua took out a folded divorce form from his pocket. Could you give it to me quickly? It's meaningless. With that, he tore it up in front of me. The only thing meaningless here is you. Now you understand. Give up and come back. Let's live together again. Sleep talking should take place when you're sleeping. I had something up my sleeve that would plunge them further into hell. Just come back without any fuss. That's impossible. This should make things clear. I showed them the recorded video of the meeting. That clearly captured the moment I was doused with boiling water. Now do you understand? How did you get this? You'll never understand. What? This can serve as solid evidence of domestic violence, and I was actually planning to go to the police with it. Shall we go together? Joshua? What should we do? Wait a minute. I'm thinking. They looked like they were about to start arguing right there. Then, my father appeared. Patricia. Dad! I thought I'd come and say a word. After all, we need to properly thank those who bullied my daughter. Seeing my father, Joshua and his mother were visibly scared. Maybe we should just give up. We can't back down now. You'd better listen to your mother. What should we do with these two? My father was more than ready. It's a hassle. Maybe we should just call the police now. I took out my smartphone. Seeing this, the two of them fled the scene. But little did they know, there was no escaping this. How foolish. They have nowhere to run. It's just the beginning. If you had gotten involved, we'd be the ones calling the police. My father and I shared a laugh, looking at each other. Now, for the final touch. First, I headed to the police station with the evidence. Based on the video evidence, they would initiate an investigation. And not just that, I also went to a law firm to proceed with the divorce. Linda, thanks for last time. It really helped me out. I just did what anyone would. Patricia is an important friend and also the president of our company, after all. The latter reason is the real deal, isn't it? Who knows? After that, Joshua and I successfully finalized our divorce. While he wasn't arrested for domestic violence, he did end up having to pay a fine. Moreover, considering everything that happened since we got married, I decided to make them apologize me. To me, having Joshua fall into hell through his beloved money seemed most fitting. Later, I went to a certain place. It's been a while. Patricia. What are you doing here? You put this store up for sale, right? And it seems like you've also accumulated some debt. Where did you hear that? I had a lawyer investigate everything about Joshua. It turns out he had been borrowing money regularly to cover living expenses. And it seems his mother didn't know about this fact. This store is no longer yours. What do you mean? Forgot who I am? You can't be you. Exactly. This store is mine from today. I'll make good use of it. Now, why don't you hurry back to your mommy? No way. I'm sure she'll comfort you. Leaving Joshua collapsed on his knees, I walked away. Afterward, I renovated the purchased store and revived it as a new shop. Of course, the sales are doing well. We are still growing and have much more to achieve.